I would now like to invite Shri Manish Tewari for to address the audience here.
Honorable Hanspalji, Dr. Mohinder Singh, Dr. Neena Puri, Dr. Bhagwan Josh, ladies and gentlemen, I think first of all the Bhai Veer Singh Sahitya Sadan must be congratulated for organizing this very extensive discussion on the political and the governance challenges of Punjab. And obviously, at the end of 2 days and what I am told extremely erudite presentations, all of you who've participated in these proceedings would obviously have a lot of food for thought. And so therefore, I am neither going to belabor the history of Punjab, nor am I going to delineate at any great length about the challenges Punjab currently faces. I would confine myself to very few, one or two observations, which I think are germane given the fact that this is going to be an ongoing series of interactions on various aspects concerning the future of Punjab. Look, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, Punjab is a prisoner of its own history. And that history, unfortunately, is shaped by its geographical location. For centuries, it became the pathway for every invader who came into India, except the British, or the Portuguese, or the Dutch for that matter. And subsequently, the partition of India was not really the partition of India, it was the partition of Punjab and the partition of Bengal. Bengal to some extent suffered less, and Punjab unfortunately suffered much more, primarily because the British, after the failure of the First War of Independence, when they recreated their recruitment paradigm, militarized the entire region from New Delhi till the Khyber Pass very extensively. And when you have about 2.3 million Indians in arms, bulk of them from this area, when the Second World War ended, and you had a very swift demobilization, and obviously you allowed people to go back with their weapons, you created a powder keg. And through that powder keg, when you decided to draw a line rather abruptly, the consequences, I guess, didn't require any rocket science to figure out, but people at that point in time possibly did not want to figure them out. And subsequently, as things evolved between 1947 and now, Punjab became smaller and smaller and smaller. And being at the tail end of the country, locked on its western borders which are not going to open in the foreseeable future, irrespective of how many outreaches have been tried, primarily because on the western border sits a neighbor which unfortunately is not a country which has an army, but an army which has a country. That situation is not going to alter itself very, very rapidly. So while we can all have dreams and fantasies and wishes that we need to open our western borders, and that would open the land routes to Central Asia and beyond. Well, I don't see that happening in the near foreseeable future. And so therefore you have this little piece of land where land holdings have become smaller and smaller. Farm incomes have become challenged by the day. When you have the average size of a land holding in Punjab is between 2.5 to 3 acres, 84% of Punjab owns less than that, which is incidentally higher than the national average, which is much, much lower. And if you account for marginal farmers, it is really on the higher side. But that doesn't really account for very much in terms of farm incomes. So therefore, the agrarian, social and political crisis in Punjab really stems out of the fact that the industrialization which happened during the socialist era, which was more command economy driven, and you had these what I called Soviet towns which came up in different parts of India, essentially dependent upon a lot of the rupee ruble trade. But all that became a passé in 1991. And the economies of scale frankly do not permit any prudent industrialist to really be making very large scale investments when he has better options available. So I think that really is the root of the current crisis that we face. And that is primarily responsible, for islets becoming the biggest industry in Punjab today. That every kid who finishes +2 wants to take the exam and get out, irrespective of how arduous that process might be, or how short change they may get in the process. And that is also the reason why the drug problem has become such a serious social challenge, because you have young people who look at a future which is a dark blank wall, and either they get out, and if they don't get out, then honestly there's nothing to do. So the challenge which Punjab faces is enormous, and the polity in Punjab is grossly ill-equipped to handle it. Unfortunately, the day-to-day jousts which have now become the staple of our legislative institutions. We saw one spectacle playing itself out yesterday in the Punjab Assembly. Does not really leave any room for any constructive constructive debate on what is the way forward for Punjab. You see, with a debt of about 3.74 lakh crores, if you go by the budget today, by the end of the fiscal of 24-25, Punjab is possibly the most indebted state in the country. 20% of whatever revenue it collects actually goes towards servicing just the interest payments on that loan, which keeps on growing. So therefore, where do you really go from here? And the only way forward is that somebody has to bite that bullet And the person or the institution which has to bite that bullet is the government of India. Once the slate will have to be wiped clean. I am not going into the he said, she said, why the debt accumulated, who's responsible, who's not responsible, why the Punjab Legislative Assembly didn't exercise its mandate under Article 292 of the Constitution. Those are academic discussions now. The fact is that this is the 600-pound gorilla which sits on your doorstep. And so therefore, how much ever we may not like the Indian Constitution, how much ever we may say that it is heavily tilted towards centralism, and there is a whole context and background, and you all obviously are very tired, I don't want to bore you with that, but you have to deal with the cards which are dealt to you. And the cards that are dealt to you is that you have to operate within the constitutional system of India. And therefore, all governments in Punjab will be well served, irrespective of ideological, political differences, to try and work with whosoever is in government of India to see that this albatross around Punjab's neck is mitigated in some manner. Because Punjab does not at this point in time have the resources, the ability, the bandwidth, or the wherewithal to be able to generate those revenues which will be able to defray this debt. So, at some point in time, and it's going to be very difficult for anybody in government of India to do that, because there would be corresponding demands from every other state which is equally indebted. But given Punjab's very peculiar position on India's western border, that's a fact which weighs heavily with every government in Delhi. And therefore, under those circumstances, I think it is prudent that the polity in Punjab rises above partisan differences and sees to it that a concerted attempt is made after the next Lok Sabha election to try and find a way of dealing with it. Because the state can only grow, the state can only do something for the people if it has the wherewithal to be able to make the essential capital expenditure. If you rewind back over the next, thanks ma'am, if you rewind back over the past 4 years, even Government of India has been using the engine of capital expenditure, government driven capital expenditure, in order to keep the economy going. There is still not very much of private sector investment which is happening in the economy currently. So that's a bad model, but in the case of Punjab, possibly that is the only model. And that only model will kick in if you have some kind of wiggle room, which you currently do not have at all. The second thing is, I think these pipe dreams of big industry, the sooner we get out of that mindset, the better it would be. Because that's not happening. Right? If the economies of scale work for me on the Gujarat coast or the Tamil Nadu coast or the Maharashtra coast, I am definitely not going to come inland. And all those freight equalization policies which created Mandi Gobindgarh, etc., and which were done for the right reasons, because the hinterland also needs to develop. Unfortunately, we threw all that out, lock, stock and barrel, when we decided to liberalize the economy. While some good things happened, some bad things also happened, and we are unfortunately the worst sufferers in that process. So the thing that we need to look at is what is the natural resource that we have? Cotton, wheat, rice, agri products. We need to actually create an industry around that. And that's the green transition which Dr. Saab was talking about. It is through the efficient use of the raw material that we currently have. If we were to use it properly, Punjab would also be able to make that green transition. Because eventually, till that point in time, we remain exclusively on the wheat and rice cycle. And the reason why we are on the wheat and rice cycle and the MSP is such a huge issue, and correctly a huge issue, is because there are no other alternatives. And if the MSP support was to be withdrawn, Punjab would find itself in a much worse sinkhole than it currently finds itself in. So I think what is really important is that you've begun this process. You need to get the stakeholders onto one table. You need to get the political parties in Punjab and other stakeholders onto one table and to agree to at least a 10-year roadmap of Punjab, irrespective of whether there is a change of government or not. And this is not something which has not happened. In 1990, when India went into a economic crisis, right, there was actually a seminar which was done by the Observer Research Foundation, which was in its very nascent stage at that point in time, where between the left, right and the center, which is, if I remember correctly, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Mr. L.K. Advani and Mr. Jyoti Basu, there was almost a broad consensus which was hammered out before even Dr. Manmohan Singh became finance minister about the way forward for India's economy. And irrespective of the critique that we are too GDP obsessed, which is correct in a way, that consensus is now held for 25 years. Governments have come and gone, but that consensus is broadly held. That is the kind of consensus that we require to create, to find the roadmap for Punjab. And that's where organizations, institutions like the Bhai Singh, Sahitya, Sadan and others can play a very, very critical role. Because eventually, till the time you do not have a political consensus and the political discourse in Punjab is not underscored by how much you can abuse whom in the highest decibel possible, unfortunately we may find ourselves in a situation which may be worse than the period from 1980 to 1995, and I'll stop with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to invite now Professor Bhagwan Josh to give the vote of thanks.
A Punjabi poet had said, "शब्द ਤਾਂ ਕਹੇ ਜਾ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਨ, ਸਾਥੋਂ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੇ ਸਾਥੋਂ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਪਿੱਛੋਂ." So the relevant words have already been said in the seminar, and nothing which is so valuable remains to be said. They have already been said. One point which I want to just make and then move ahead is that the most important thing of Punjab process, which has been going on for the last 40 years, is pain. And that process is recorded by its poets and writers. No, I can't go into it. So if you look through their poems, you will realize the pain of Punjab. And it is through that pain that peasant movements are born. It is from that pain that suicides are born. But I will not go into its elaboration. I must confess that I am not competent to sum up all the ideas and themes discussed in this international conference. But there is a one thing on which all of us would agree, and what is that point? That the conference has expanded and deepened our consciousness of Punjab problems. And it's very clear from Manish's lecture also. The papers were not merely about economy and governance, they also embodied within themselves the history and culture of contemporary Punjab. The conference has many lessons to teach. One of them can be articulated in the words of Baba Farid, and that's what Farid says. Farida je tu akal latif hai, kaale likhna likh. Aap nade giribaan mein sar neema kar di. O Farid, if you are wise and enlightened one, do not commit black deeds. It would be better if you look down into your own self, and that is what Punjab needs to do it. Puran Singh has a poem, Punjab nu kuka mein, and there is a line in it. I will not just go beyond that. Ai Punjab mere tu muda. So the every Punjabi now wants Punjab to muda. Oh my Punjab, to come back to your original glory. That's what we want you. So on behalf of the National Institute of Punjab Studies, Bhai Veer Singh Sahitya Sadan, and India International Center, we all thank the scholars who made presentations, chaired the sessions, and participated in the discussions. We would like to express our heartfelt thanks to all the employees and workers whose hard work made this conference a great success. We express our gratitude to Shri Manish Tewari for presiding over the valedictory session. His presence brought back the memory of Professor V.N. Tewari, a great champion of Punjabi language. I was living next to their house, so I often visited their house. Preetham and I have very close relationship with Professor Tewari. Finally, all of us would like to thank the organizers, especially Dr. Mahinder Singh and Shri N.N. Vora ji for conceptualizing and bringing this conference to fruition. Let us put our hands together and applaud their effort. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all.